Welcome back to the show. Today, my very special guest is Erica Orange. She's a renowned futurist, a thought leader, and an author of The AI, The New Human Frontier, Reimagining the Future of Time, Trust, and Truth. Ooh, I'm so excited for this because AI is literally taking over our planet, which is why I invited Erica and her amazing message to get on the show today. Erica's work explores the transformative potential of AI and its impact on creativity, trust, and the human experience. Her insights challenge us to rethink the role of technology in shaping our future while staying a little bit grounded in the values that define us as humans. Look, AI can be a little scary, but I'm here to welcome Erica to remind us that it doesn't always have to be just scary. There's amazing components to AI, amazing technologies that have come out of AI that I think Erica is going to shed an amazing light on and have an optimistic perspective that I'm excited about to share today. Erica, thank you so much for joining me, friend. It's good to see you.
Thank you for having me. And I love that intro because whether it is technology or the future in general, I always try to lead from optimism. And I always say it's not just to be Pollyanna. It really is just, shining the guiding light with some hope. We all need a little hope today, right?
Especially today, as we're recording this, we were just talking about this. Our friends out in LA, we're sending you love and prayers. Our friends out on the East Coast, I know you're buried in snow, so just stay cozy, stay inside. We love y'all. We hope that you guys make it out safe wherever you are. But Erica, again, thank you for joining me. I do want to talk about your book, but before we get into your book and all your amazing expertise, I followed you. I started following you because I love following people who are experts out in the world, going out there, speaking, pushing it. They are messengers of their message. I call them young prophets. And so you're out there doing your thing, especially about this amazing topic. But I want to know, how did you get into all this? How did you get into this futuristic world and embedding your optimistic views into it? What sparked that?
Yes, so we in fact are a family business. So my husband is my business partner, and my mother-in-law was one of the very early pioneers in the field, Edie Weiner. And I always joke that I had my kind of early 20s, 25-year-old kind of quarter-life crisis, where I knew I always liked thinking analytically and putting the puzzle pieces together. And as my mentor at a very young age, I went to her. I was like, the big question of what do I do with my life? Thinking at 25, like I was wasting anything, right? Everything seems so big when you're that age. And she said to me, she was like, have you ever thought about futurism? And I was like, come again? What? And she exposed me to this world of just spotting patterns, thinking critically. I describe what I do as kind of one big Venn diagram. And she said, it's going to take several years. And it was very true to not only train my mind, but train my eyes to really think about those patterns differently and to really understand how things were unfolding. And it was true then. It's even truer now, particularly in an age of AI. I still go back to those very early lessons of 20 years ago, being in this field now for 20 years, and really still relying on the human eye to really understand where change is moving more broadly on a macro level. And just as a personal anecdote, I always joke, it's like there's no separation of church and state in our family because my son became involved in the book. My husband and I bat around these concepts at all times. But I really think it's that partnership that has made us both better at what we do because we're just living and breathing this world and just constantly.
Yeah. That's amazing. I love that. And, again, by following you, I see these photos of you and your husband and your kiddos when you're out and traveling and you're speaking. And what an adventure, I feel like you're someone that's really on an adventure to expose us to the future in a lot of different ways, which is so cool because the future that when I was young and growing up and I was an artist, I was a graphic artist and I loved drawing and painting and stuff. I was always drawing like futuristic cars and flying stuff and, homes that had all this crazy technology. So anything you share, I always get a little smirk and read through it. And I'm like, yeah, this is cool. But then there's
I love that. I love that. I just want to say, because I always say so much of my work is more, all of it is an art versus a science.
Yes.
And there are those futurists that are really rooted in the science and the data and the quant. And for me, it really comes down to imagination and curiosity. And those are my driving forces. And it's why doing this as a family in many cases too is just so, I think, transformative for all of us, because so much of what I've learned is even just through watching my son, who's 7, and watching him engage in analog and more tactile forms of play, and seeing how he imagines and how he sees the world. And it's kind of just opened up my own eyes to even just new ways of thinking by seeing him making sense of his reality for the first time.
I love that so much. And what's funny, I feel like it's, again, like back to when we were kids, when we were young, right? We look out into the future and see ourselves in it in some way, shape, or form, right? Whether we're young superheroes or astronauts, or and I just feel like we are now in like the Jetsons. Oh my God, that was my favorite TV show. You know what I mean? That was like, the Flintstones were cool, but like I was very much a Jetsons kid. But like looking out into the future and seeing like what's possible for me. And I feel like we live in this time now that's like things got warped and like literally everything is possible. Like especially with the advance of technological advances that really have taken us. I mean, now, like, just driving around my electric, little car, my little Batmobile thing. And now it's like, no. You can control your car from your phone and have it drive to you. Like, I feel like when we were kids, we were sort of imagining what this future is like. And now that these kids are actual engineers and they're scientists and they're chemists and they're, advancing technology. So they're doing those little things. And it's so cool to see technology in that way. But, and there's a big but here, which I want to talk about now before we jump into your book. It's scary. Let's be real, right? It's borderline like, this is, we were just thinking about this a few years ago. Now it's here. How do I even cope and deal with this? I know you get that kind of question a lot. Technology can get scary, robots, Optimus is here, all these things. How do you navigate that conversation? Because again, you're an optimist. I love that. I'm an optimist. I feel like there's so many great things about technology. But how do you navigate that scary conversation that comes up almost immediately when we talk about these things with people?
There's this chasm that is growing between all of these changes that we see happening in the macro environment and our ability to really make sense of it and understand it. It's almost as if the technologies are leapfrogging themselves, but that gap between our ability to adapt and adjust to these changes is growing. And I talk a lot about this whole notion of time too, and the catapulting of time, and time is the new luxury value proposition, and the fact that we are in this world today of templosion. And we in our shop define it as the fact that these big things, these big events are happening in shorter and shorter periods of time. So it's kind of creating that hamster in a wheel effect where generations are refreshing themselves in shorter periods of time. Strategies are refreshing themselves shorter and shorter. The life cycle of products is getting shorter. And at the same time, there are facets of our lives that aren't changing at all. And we're dealing with rapid progress in some areas of our lives and complete inertia in other areas of our lives. And it's hard to reconcile that. It's kind of like living simultaneously in the Jetsons in some parts of our lives, and then like Mad Men in other parts. Or is it 1960 or is it 2040? And it creates this kind of interesting kind of mental gap where we're like, what's the roadmap? And it's why we're all looking for a roadmap. We all want answers. And as a futurist, I would love to be able to give people those answers. But the answer is there are multiple paths to take in a world where there are multiple futures. And I think that reality is really hard for people to reconcile. But the more that we can take ownership of our own path for companies, their own strategies, and their own innovations, and really, really not paying lip service to, but prioritizing strategic foresight and long-term thinking. We're still so stuck in the short term, the now, the next, that we lose sight of what could be in the weeks, months, and years to come.
Wow. Yeah, it's a very interesting, your idea of time and how it's kind of warped, right? That it is shorter it's slimmer in areas and it's very expanded in other areas. So you're right. I think that is the scary part, right? For some people, I mean, even for me, like sometimes I'm like, man, we're so advanced in thinking and technological stuff. But I'm like, this human policy that we still have lingering around is ridiculous, right? Like it's stuck in the 30s or whatever, right? And it's like, where is the medium where we can find some of that trust, right? Where we can actually find our time and space today and archive it, because it does feel like we're living simultaneously in the future and in the past, where our present is being warped. It literally feels warped,
yeah.
right? Right.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And AI is such a critical example of this, because we talk about AI as if it is one technology, where it really is about different types and multiple forms of AI. And I always say I'm equally curious about what AI can do as I am about what AI cannot do. So there are some facets of AI that make us feel like we are living in that future. And other types of AI where it's so rudimentary, or it's flawed, or it hasn't evolved much since the early parts of the early inception of AI, going back to like the 1950s and 60s. And it's these two very different kind of juxtaposed realities. And that's also why we're trying to make sense of what AI is even telling us. And we need to unravel a lot of the hype versus the reality in those conversations too.
I love that. So it leads me to asking you, of course, about your new book, The AI, The New Human Frontier. Can you tell me a little bit about, what sparked the idea to write this book? And what are some of the core concepts that you're trying to share with your specific audience?
Yeah, so I have been speaking on this topic for the better part of the last decade, really in trying to understand where is the human going to play and how is humanity going to evolve in the future. And I had created several years ago a framework that I had called the 3Ts, the time, trust, and truth framework, really thinking what are the new luxury value propositions for the future? What is going to be in high demand and short supply? And I had spoken for so long about time, but I was like, two others are really rising up in importance, and those are trust and truth. And I started thinking more and more about it through the lens of AI, whether it was the disruption or even the disintermediation of human labor, and how the inverse, IA, intelligence augmentation, was really what we needed to focus on. And I kept coming back to the same very simple yet fundamental question. And that was, do we believe in the potential of people, in humanity, as much as we believe in the potential of technology? And there is such a push and pull between the acceleration of technology or the deceleration of technology, without really pausing and thinking, what is the impact going to be on us, knowing we're never going to be rendered obsolete, but we are at this interesting inflection point where we need to really think about how do we double down on our own unique human-centric qualities. What are they? What's going to matter? Again, I came at this both through the lens as a futurist and as a mother. And it was kind of my mother hat that became even more interesting, because it kind of sent me into this rabbit hole of how are we educating that next generation of thinkers, of leaders, of doers, of shapers, knowing that so many of them are in an antiquated system that was appropriate for an economy 3-4 economies ago. And what we are educating around is not necessarily what this generation needs to be learning. So what are the questions that they have to ask around AI? What's going to matter? What are some of the inherent risks? What are the opportunities in the job market? How can they reimagine jobs that we cannot even begin to imagine today? So it was really thinking about this through the lens of us. It is not about the next iteration of ChatGPT. I am not a technologist, right? Like, I am not someone who is in the weeds with technology. I consider myself both a futurist and then someone who really is interested in human psychology.
Yeah. I love that you embedded this very important word that I really like, that caught my attention, especially as I've watched your content, which is trust, right? How do we trust these technologies? How do we trust what's happening? But also, I love how, when I was young, and I'm going to tie this back into what you said here in a second, but like when I was young, graduating high school in 2004, and I was taking my drafting class because I wanted to be an architect. And I did go to architecture school, but when I was in that drafting class, my professor said, Hussein, your future job is not even here yet. Like it's not created. The way you're going to do architecture is not even invented yet. You could potentially create that. You could create that future. And man, that stuck with me so long that I'm here now thinking about it, because we're now 25 years into the future, and he's so right. There are so many things that happened, right? Including the phone, or like the iPhone, and like so many things that have happened since 2004. It was crazy. Yeah, and in 2004, we thought we were in the Jetsons age, right? Like I had my Nokia, and I thought I was so cool, and like we were beyond the pagers at that point. But what's fascinating is I love that you really talk about the next generation and where they're operating as far as what, like our system, our culture, and our societal norms, and what we think a system is, doesn't overlay. It does. The map doesn't work with our current, idea. Like young people are so much smarter. I was just talking to a 24-year-old today that was so sharp with technology and stuff. And I'm like, man, I want to hire you. Like you're so sharp with this, and just so forward thinking and optimistic. That was the coolest thing about that conversation. Just that happened today. So I love that you're like helping us remap what currently this can look like and how we can shape what the future can look like and overlay a new map that actually could make sense for those kids to now think even further into the future and help our societal norms. I'm super excited about this conversation, as you can tell. It's because, I have this young kid in me that is really technically excited about the future that we live in.
I mean, what a teacher, though. If only all of our young people today had those sources of inspiration. I didn't at that age. I mean, it was always and it still is a very linear message. It is the message of just being able to retain information, teaching to the test, rote memorization. Then if you want to go on to school, many schools aren't even prioritizing vocational training, which we know is going to be so hugely important, particularly in an age of AI. And it also underscores something that I've been talking about for the last decade and a half, really. And it's only until now that people are like, oh, I really get it, which is the difference between smart and intelligent. And we're still churning out generations that, if we're lucky, are smart. But are we unlucky in that? Because what is happening to smart? Who or what is smart anymore? And when you think about what AI really is, which is why I don't even like the term artificial intelligence, it's still artificial smart, right? It is able to do the work, the jobs, the thinking of those who are smart, right? And that gets to the linearity of how we teach. So if you want to create a generation of smart, that's going to go onto software, right? That sort of thinking is already being automated. But then when we shift our perspective and think what truly is intelligence, and it's facets of true AI are kind of starting to get there, but it really is not fully there yet. And that is our ability to think analytically and think critically. And many of our school systems are still not prioritizing that kind of thinking. And if you think about future-proofing that next generation, working alongside and symbiotically and collaboratively with AI, they have to move that needle from smart to intelligent. And intelligent really gets at problem solving. It gets at asking the questions that have deeper meaning and going into what you had just talked about with truth, being able to start deciphering the difference between real, fake, true, and false, knowing that so much of their reality is going to be about misdis, malinformation, digitally derived information, deep fakes, but yet we're still not really teaching whether it's Gen Z or the generation coming up behind them, the Gen Alphas, a lot of these really, really critical skill sets for the future.
Yeah. Wow. You touch on such a vast array of very important topics in your book. And I think the ones that, I feel like ring true is this look, we can't lose our humanity in all of this,
Mhm.
right? In fact, the fact that AI can handle these tasks, these menial things, the things that maybe we don't need to be doing, and then refocus on energy on being more human, being more social, having more time with our families and friends and things. And, like you said, working like side by side with these components that can help our lives, but also not consume our lives, and that we kind of generate more time to be human. Like, what's one thing everyone talks about and complains about? It's like not having enough time with their kids, their family, their
Yeah.
this. And it's like, well, if this thing can come in and help take away some of that, right? But then the fear comes, of course, with losing the jobs and all that. And I said, but human beings have always been great at when a new innovation comes along, like AI or like the computer or like the typewriter or like the printing press. Things didn't necessarily, we just got better at becoming humans. We got better at societal norms. We improved our economies, our cultures, our art. We got to, we got deeper at the thing that we want to be great at. And, I feel like I've become a great designer, or an artist, a writer, not because I have these tools, it's because I get to have these tools that amplify my creativity. So I love that you share the vastness of like, look, there's a lot of ways to look at AI. But the biggest way that I really want your input on is what role do you see like for policymakers and technologists in ensuring that AI serves humanity's best interest, especially regarding oversight and accountability? Because I know it's kind of a tough question, but like, because it's so new, it's still sort of foggy, right? But like all of a sudden, randomly, you'll see like all the big heads, Elons and the billionaires and whatever, meeting up and having these discussions about AI. What does that mean for us common folk, if you will? What are your insights around that?
That all of this is going to be a complete Wild West because AI does not respect traditional boundaries, knowing that we are already living in a world of complete boundarylessness. And that has been the case for a while. And it's going to continue to be uneven, and it's going to continue to be unpredictable. So there really is no clear answer around this, other than I will say we've been talking about this more as a firm, which we've kind of dubbed the trisometric power nexus. And this is not to put a doom and gloom spin on any of this. It is to say that as individuals, we will be at this very interesting point going through this year and going through the next few years where there's going to be kind of a rock, paper, scissors game played between three very powerful nexes, and that is AI as one, the rise of the billionaireocracy, and the rise of just the billionaire class, just exercising influence and power on a global level we have never seen before, and the rise of global autocracies. And we are seeing this happen around the world. And it is, right? It's like the rock, paper, scissors. We don't know which power structure is going to influence who or what. As AI evolves, it could influence how we craft policy, how we define our regulatory bodies, how our boards of directors make decisions. But we are at this kind of tug of war, which is very interesting, around these global players that we don't know how any of this ultimately is going to shake out. We're trying to make sense of what Elon Musk's endgame is going to be. There are those that are talking about the kind of EACs and the decels, right? The effective accelerationists and the decelerationist that are coming out of Silicon Valley. All of this is one big chessboard. So on one end of the spectrum, we can talk about the changes in talent, in work, in time-based efficiencies, in creativity, and the cultivation of empathy, and all of these new skill sets and all of these opportunities there. On the other end of the spectrum, there are going to be massive power struggles on a geopolitical level that we have never seen before because of that rate of technological change. So I know that that is kind of a answer, non-answer, but there are a lot of forces that are dictating how this ultimately plays out that are beyond just the enterprise solutions that we see embedded on the organizational level.
Right. Honestly, that was probably the best answer I think I've ever gotten about how this plays out on a bigger scale, because it is massive. It's bigger than I think our imagination can even catch up with, right? Or get a hold of. And well laid out. Thank you so much for that. I do have a much simpler question though. How do you use AI? What are maybe some of your favorite tools right now that help you maybe either do the work or take care of things? Like, what do you lean into when we talk about the tools and the AI technology right now?
Yeah, so one of the things that I realized in writing the book was that there are so many contradictory statistics out there when it comes to AI. And this is where having my business partner be my husband is also very helpful, because I was so in it and I was like, I need you to use your critical eye because I feel like these things are at odds. And he's like, they are. And it was very helpful to use even a tool like ChatGPT to be like, what is it like? What are the statistics telling me that are coming out of BCG, McKinsey, Stanford, Deloitte, KPMG, and the list goes on and on. So to streamline a lot of that research, it was very helpful. And also, just as a firm, we do 24 trend-based working papers every year. And what feeds into that are about 80 to 100 individual abstracts that we do every month. We source it from a wide variety of both online and print publications. As I said at the beginning of this, right, it's still based on the human eye. And just using AI to kind of get some keywords to just streamline it. Again, it's all, I use it as a time saver. For me, it's just very helpful to synthesize kind of the key points in a large body of content. What I have found it to be unhelpful in doing, I've played around even just putting some like samples of writing in there to be like, oh, can you refine this? And I'm like, actually don't, this is garbage. So to do anything that does require, right, like the human touch and to think critically, it's not going to do that for us. But as a small business, it does help streamline even some of the back end things that we do.
Yes, yes. I love that. Yeah, I admittedly, and I share this a lot, I mean, I use ChatGPT and Claude for a lot of my creative stuff. So like helping me, like you said, like analyze and like give me a little bit of research about this. Tell me about this person that I want, this designer that I kind of want to quote and like bring into this, and it helps me like connect dots that then I can creatively say, okay, I can poetically put my thing together, or a post or whatever it is, a newsletter, a thing, or even my like YouTube videos, right? So like I like think I'm like, okay, I want to use a hook similar to this person, but I want to weave it to this. So it helps me bring that information in the forefront. Then I can kind of decipher like, okay, what actually sounds like me though? And then I would weave that in. And then that's what's cool about this, right? It feels like a blank canvas that has abilities that you can use oil, you can use acrylic, you can use all at the same time and create something that is different. That's different than what you've originally thought about, which is
I was saying you hit the nail on the head when you said to create something that sounds like me. And like you and I are both on LinkedIn a bunch, you and I are both on social media, and there is such a sameness that is very pervasive on a lot of these platforms where, right, you read it or you hear it, whether you know the person or you don't, and you're like, that just doesn't sound right. Or I've heard that before. Oh, wait, it wasn't from this person. I read something so similar from somebody else. So I think our ability to differentiate ourselves, to maintain our own personal originality, whatever that is, whatever, like whether it's our personal brand or whether it's just our own original thinking, that has to become more valued, because AI is going to churn out the same sort of thing in the same sort of tone.
So powerful. I think that is the one thing that I've extracted the most in the last couple of years as AI has kind of ran rampant. I'm like, I'm going to do my best to use this tool, but to use this tool to extract more of my voice, my personality, my, the things that I really love. And like, the more I lean into that, the more this is going to be fun and work out for me, and be optimistic and keep my optimism around this. Right.
And
Because
that's
again,
the
it is a
augment
tool.
of this piece, right? That's
Yes.
you're using it to augment what you already do, which is a
Right.
great use of the tool versus using it
Yeah.
as a crutch.
I love that. Okay, so I have one more question for you. If you hand your book to,
You mean
your
this?
yes, that book. Please bring it up again. It's such a good cover, by the way.
I know.
The
Thank you. You
new
notice
human
how it's orange?
frontier.
That was not by accident.
Oh, yeah, very accidental. I love that. When somebody holds your book and they finish reading your book, what is the one takeaway you're really hoping that they feel good about?
That we have the ability and the power to shape our own personal future and our collective futures. That we have the ability to spark imagination in new ways. And you said it before, and I say this time and time again, that ultimately the future is a blank slate. And if we approach it not through the lens of our own value judgments, but really through just objectivity and possibility, then we do have the ability to create what we want to see. It's just that we operate with so many blinders on and think this is scary, or we can't do it, or I don't have this in my next budgetary cycle, right? It's like always about the here and now, where it's just one of my favorite adages is a diamond is merely a lump of coal that did well under pressure. And if we just take that lump of coal and try to extract a diamond out of it, we really can create some incredible things.
I love that so much. What a great way to wrap that up. I think what's really cool is that you get to go out there, like you said, like earlier, you're on an adventure with your kids and your amazing husband, and you're sharing this message because you are a messenger of your message. You truly embody this work. This is why I keep flashing this thing out here. Go follow Erica right now on LinkedIn if you haven't yet. Definitely check out the book and get the book. You can go to thefuturehunters.com. Can you share a little bit about your speaking strategy? Because I think this is a great way for authors to learn from you. This is why I really wanted to get on this call. Learn from you the ways that you've been able to leverage, obviously being a futurist, being an optimist, how do you then use that and leverage that and use your book to help grow your business, your speaking business, your agency?
Yeah, so I mean, I've been on the speaking circuit for significantly longer than I have been an author. I always say I feel like I had a book inside of me, right?
Yeah.
But so much of my platform was a speaking platform, because what better way to really share the message about the future than to get on stage and share it across industry, across audiences, globally. And my hope is, I mean, this book is one facet of a much bigger kind of body of knowledge where, right, AI is on everybody's minds today, but what really is at the heart of it and is at the heart of all of my speaking engagements, my client work, and my workshops is how do we, again, tap deeper into us, our skill sets, rethink work, our own value proposition. And a lot of it is just, I say, getting out the mental cobwebs, right? Being able to see through kind of fresh, unfettered thinking. And it's only until we create that foundation are we able to use it as a springboard to really get us into where the future is going. And I love just galvanizing people to just think differently and knowing that, again, everybody has the ability to shape their future. It's not just a futurist. Anybody can do this work. It's just about training themselves to really see how all of these things are unfolding. So again, I have to remain hopeful. I can't do this work and I can't kind of be what I would consider to be a good mom, right? If I don't think about how to create something that is better both for our generation and the generations to come.
I love that. Erica, thank you so much for coming on the show. You truly embody your work, your message, you exemplify it, and you're out there fighting for that in the most amazing way. So I love following you, love following your work. Thank you so much today for taking the time to hang out with me and share your message. And listen, if you're out there, go get this book. Definitely follow Erica. She has literally a wealth of knowledge. But if anything, she's just optimistic. If you want a dose of optimism, follow this amazing woman. And if you get a chance to catch her speak, she's remarkable. And I've watched some of her videos. Amazing. You guys, thank you so much for watching. I'm Hussein. Take care. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.